Hey guys, are you ready for today's March 5th, 2026, 1:51 p.m. Central Time. Iran war. Boom, boom, boom. So quite a few of you have contacted me on different platforms and email and all kinds, even on here, asking my opinion about this. And I've kind of ignored you guys a little bit because I wanted to see how this panned out. First off, never in my lifetime did I think a president of the United States would do a huge bombing campaign in Iran. I just didn't foresee it. It was something that needed to happen, but I didn't foresee it coming anytime soon. But here's the deal. I'll start off with this. I'm really surprised at how many people are shocked and confused about why Iran is lashing out at its neighbors. And I don't think the DOW is as shocked as other people. I think they're kind of keeping it low key and they're not really saying much about it or their opinion. And I'm going to give you my opinion based on all of my experience with Iran. I believe that they're lashing out at the Gulf states and direct neighbors for two reasons. One, they are attempting to punish them to a degree for being neutral, or in a sense, because they're not participating in the war. Some of them are allowing the U.S. to use their bases, but also because they're basically in support of the United States and Israel doing this. So that's one reason. But number two, the reason they're targeting civilian sites, international airports, hotels, things like that, they're not hitting military sites and stuff like that, is because they're trying to send a message that if they stick around, this regime sticks around somehow, which will be devastatingly horrible after all of this. If we walk out of there and the regime is not changed by the Iranian people, and there isn't a transition with the exiled prince, it will be devastating, because it will be an ugly backyard for everybody. Because the reason that they're hitting these sites is it's a punishment to a degree, saying if we're staying in power, and we will, we're gonna fuck you up now. Because they're still shooting stuff over these Gulf states. So it's twofold. It's one, you're helping and you have no opinion and you are supporting. And two, we're going to still be here and you're going to fucking regret doing all of that. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. I think it's a waste of time on their part, to be honest, but why everybody's so confused about that, I don't quite understand. Moving on. Never in my lifetime did I ever think a president would be doing this to this degree, doing a bombing campaign with Israel, period, or by ourselves, either way. Because my concern a few videos back was, why are we going into Iran? Like, why is he threatening to go into Iran? You're talking about a civil war, basically, with unarmed civilians, basically. But, and you're wanting to help out protesters, but then it's like, when that type of shit happens with all U.S. presidents, they always, like, half-ass it. And so I did not agree with that. If he was just going to bomb some stupid shit, I was not going to agree with that. And on top of it, they were talking about a nuclear deal at the same time. And it's like, I don't know why you guys are wasting your time with that. So never did I think that POTUS would run a bombing campaign on this country, more or less with Israel. So I'm kind of surprised by that. And it kind of makes my video a couple videos back moot. But do I agree with what's happening? Well, yes. I think we're the only country in the world that could take out their ballistic missiles program, which is exactly what I've been talking about for many years, because that was left out of the JCPOA. intentionally by the Obama administration, because Ayatollah said, no, we are not putting that in there, which was the dumbest fucking thing ever for Obama to agree to, and Clinton. Because what do you need to send a nuke anywhere? You need a mode of transportation, which is an ICBM or a ballistic missile. So obviously that should have been part of that agreement, and their stuff wouldn't have been as many as they have. Now, I am a little bit surprised on how accurate some of these missiles coming from Iran are, because of what they had done to Israel during that 12-day war or whatever. And they just basically like shot out a bunch of shit, and like a lot of it fell. Didn't even make it to Israel. A lot of like Jordan, Saudi Arabia and stuff were shooting stuff down. We were shooting stuff down from the water. And some of like they were like some of them failed and blew up their platforms and stuff. So I'm kind of surprised that they're able to get some of these off, as they have been and been successful in these other countries hitting stuff. But if you notice where they're hitting in these other countries, just kind of a side note, is they're not hitting too far into the country. And that's the other thing. So if you're hitting something that's very close to the edge of where you're shooting from, it's going to be very difficult for any type of SAM or Patriot system, anything like that. SAM is a surface to air missile. It's a defense system, to take it out, because it's not going into the airspace fast enough or far enough to do that. I'm not saying it's not possible. These people should have been paying attention. But that's probably another reason why they're targeting things that are more on the edges of these countries than they are on the interior, is to make sure they get through. Beside the point. Do I agree with this? I agree with it in a sense that this had to be done by somebody, meaning us, and possibly, with Israelis or anyone else who was interested in the area at some point. Is this the time to do it? Now is better than any other time. Should have been done years ago. My biggest thing is we're obviously not targeting leadership. We're targeting their ballistic missiles. We're targeting their modes of transportation of all kinds, because they've got drones and stuff. They were targeting platforms and underground missiles and underground systems and their depots and all kinds of stuff like that. Like that's why we're there. And we're taking out their Navy and the IRGC and the local army, which I think is ridiculous. I don't think they're going to be able to do that very easily. But beside the point. So we're taking out physical kinetic issues, and Israelis are taking out leadership. And I think that's the best route to go. I don't think the United States should be looking at doing regime change, as we have been so successful in the past, right? I don't think that's our choice, our decision. We shouldn't be doing that. And Trump wouldn't want to be looking like that. It's basically, well, who's going to run the country now? You've knocked off 40 people. Well, the president's still around, and he's mouthing off on X and stuff, saying we're going to regret this shit and we set a precedent and all this stuff. So there are people wandering around still, and it's going to be a necessity for Israel to continue taking out leadership and anyone who might be in succession to the people who have died, which is a lot of people. A lot of targets, and those targets are probably in hiding now. So it's going to be a little more difficult to do. So, because if we leave and we've finished our campaign and leadership's still there and like Israel's doing it on their own, or Israel goes home and they don't finish their deal and they leave it to the Iranian people to take over, that's not going to work out well for Iranian people. What needs to happen at this point, since we have gone this far, is the Iranian people need to be armed. They should have been armed a long time ago, because they aren't. They are disarmed. It's they had weapons at one point. They were all taken from them. The IRGC started slaughtering people, threatening them if they didn't give stuff over. And then they wouldn't just threaten them, they'd take it. If they even gave it up, they'd take it and then shoot them in the head. So the Iranian people have no recourse, obviously, because 35,000 of them were killed in 2 days, to fight back, other than set things on fire, or they even have fireworks over there and stuff like that. So the IRGC and the local army that they're talking about, which is as far as I'm concerned, is their local police army slash is pretty useless, because the IRGC and actually some terrorist groups were taking these people out at the time they were doing these protests, which are much more highly armed, and they just spray and you know, they're able to get a hold of people and put them in prisons and stuff like that and all this stuff. They're much more equipped, and there's much more many of them, if you will, to do that type of stuff. So how they get armed is who arms them. Do we arm them? Do the Israelis arm them? You know, like, who's going to do that? We can't leave without the leadership being gone and have their ballistic missiles and all kinds of stuff fucked up, and any of their nuclear rebuilt shit fucked up, and their platforms fucked up, and their trucks and depots and storage and all this stuff fucked up, and the leadership has to be gone. So it's like all that needs to happen before anybody leaves. And then during the end of this, they need to start arming people. But seriously, who arms them? Do we arm them? I mean, I don't think that would go over well in the public, domestically, especially considering it's a midterm year. So I would much foresee Israel doing the arming of these civilians. But that's going to have to happen. They can't fight with rocks and sticks like they have been. I mean, Iran, before all these assholes took over, was a very developed country. It still is a very developed country. And, I mean, they were actually more developed than we were before all this happened, in a sense that women were in much more leadership roles and stuff like that before they even were in this country. So Iran really took a dump when these people took over. So for them to kind of build back better using Biden's bullshit, or make Iran great again using Trump's bullshit, is gonna be tough. But there's this generation that grew up under the mullahs and all this stuff, so they don't know the difference, but they are highly educated. And they don't know the difference as far as other leadership, but they do know, obviously, that they are oppressed and they are fucked and they're not getting what they should be getting, and they're getting murdered and hung and imprisoned and stoned to death and all kinds of stuff, and assassinated, in a sense that they get a bullet in their head, and they, you know, so they do know that they're in their ugly situation. But as far as building back the government is going to be a tough thing. And I think that's why the exiled king should come back and do that transition thing. He does have a lot of support in Iran. So I think that would so all these pieces have to fall together now that we have chosen to do this. So the question is, are they going to fall together? I have no idea. But if they don't fall together and they do not put these puzzle pieces together and finish it the way I said, take out all their shit that we're dealing with, or Israel taking out all the leadership of Iran, and then arming Iranian people with whoever's left so they can fight, and then bringing in the exiled prince, having him, deal with it for 2 or 3 years as a transition situation, and then they create their own government and everything. I mean, if that stuff doesn't happen in sequence, there's gonna be a problem, and this was a waste of fucking time. So I'm hoping people think this through and are not just degrading the hell out of Iran's ability to stick around leadership wise or build stuff, you know, because they're taking out factories and stuff too. Because, I mean, that's with the technology that we have these days and the fact they're with China and Russia, I mean, they could rearm real easily, regardless of the fact some of this stuff's being bombed. And yes, they do have storage facilities beneath the ground of drones and missiles and stuff like that. And we are aware of quite a few of them. They said that there's 12 being reported, but they don't necessarily know where all of them are. That's bullshit. They know exactly where they are. To give you an example, when China went over us with a balloon and they had different types of surveillance as far as like they were taking thermal and like imaging and stuff like that goes beneath the surface to a degree for a certain depth. They were doing that around our stuff with a balloon. We are absolutely doing the same thing, and we have been doing it for a very long time. So these depots and these storage facilities that are underground are going to get bombed fairly easily. Of the ones we know and the ones we don't, because we'll be able to figure it out really quick. Like I said, the satellites there are so excellent. Even when I was serving, the satellites there were excellent. You can zoom in and see a person. Now, as far as going a little further than that, it kind of turned into a VHS type of look when I was serving. But now I'm sure you could see the name of a fucking pen. Who's the, manufacturer of a pen, Bic or something, with the satellites we have now. So the surveillance that's being done as all of this is happening would be very interesting too. So never in my life, though, I never thought this would happen to this degree. So it will be interesting. If those ducks don't get in a row, we're going to have a problem in the Middle East, because it's just going to be a joke. And all those threats to their neighbors will kind of keep people in line a little bit. And they will build up and they will come back. So that's kind of my opinion on the situation. Kind of want to wait and see how things play out. But yeah, never in my lifetime. This is Are You Ready For It? Take care, guys. Have a great day.